Hello, and welcome to ApexToOval. I'm Alex, that is Jack, or that is Jack, whichever way he is this week, and we're going to be talking about some F1, NASCAR, our IndyCar driver spotlight, IMSA, WEC, and MotoGP. Before we start, please give us a 5-star review, subscribe, like, and share if you enjoy the show. Also, I had an F1 article come out today. We're recording on Monday, so by the time we're recording this on Tuesday, so it did come out today. And I also have a video coming out this week on my YouTube channel at MotorsportsAlex, so be sure to tune into that as well. That video is about figure skating. Let's get into our main story. First up, we got F1, which this was our main story last week, but it's now gone to a mini cover story. Honda, Aston Martin, not looking good.
I don't even know, what do you make of any of this? So, after we recorded last week, pretty much right after, it started coming out how bad this was, even more so. Aston Martin put out that they were surprised to see both how small the team was that was working on the Honda F1 engine and how few people with F1 experience were still there. Apparently Aston was led to believe entirely different things than what the reality was of the Honda engine program. And only became aware of what was actually happening in November.
Yeah, something like that. Let's be honest. We all knew. I'm pretty sure all of them are now at the Red Bull powertrain. If I could guess. I don't actually know where they all are, but I'd assume they're all with Red Bull.
Yeah, I don't... So I've seen a conspiracy theory or two that... Now, keep in mind, I say conspiracy theory, and I mean exactly that. There are a couple people that seem to be unable to believe that Adrian Newey would be part of such an incompetent operation. And some of them think that this is a play to get at the ADUO, additional development and upgrade opportunities, benefit, where if you're so far behind, if you're over 3% behind, you get extra opportunities, extra development opportunities to catch up, which we'll talk about that again later when it comes to Mercedes. But there are people that are saying that this is a ploy by Aston Martin, putting all this information out publicly, all of this about reliability and being so far behind to be able to get those extra development opportunities, while at the same time pushing for slight rule changes to change how the power is deployed in a way that benefits the way that this Honda engine is designed, right? The things that Honda struggled the most with are the things that Aston Martin is, theoretically pushing to change.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point that's appealing, because I also can't believe that an F1 team, this huge multi-million dollar operation would be this incompetent.
I don't know. I've seen F1 teams be this incompetent before, but they weren't in the sport for very long, and they didn't last very long. So, Haas wasn't this level of incompetent when they entered the sport, but they were they were close. Haas was terrible when they entered, but then again, they entered the sport and were bad. Aston Martin's been in the sport for years, and even before that, it was Racing Point.
Yeah, and
still owned by Stroll.
There's also a difference between putting a bad car on track or having strategy gaffes or anything like that, and being in an engine deal for 3 years and openly admitting that you had no idea what was going on with it until November of 2025.
That's the end of the season, by the way. That's the end of the previous season. With a month left before the new regs kicked in, you find that out. That's hard to believe.
Yeah, which is what Aston Martin are claiming, right? That they were like misled by Honda about the nature of some of it and only found out the truth when they visited Honda in November, this November.
Hmm.
And that they're like everything since is reaction to that. And I don't know. I think that the Aston Martin performance wise wasn't as bad as they were setting people up to believe. Um like Alonso even beat out the Cadillacs, right?
Yep.
Um
He,
but
and mind you, he was up at P10 at the start of the race. Like after one lap, he was up to P10.
he's good.
He's still elite. Like he's still that driver, you know. Um,
But I I have to wonder if they've established that they need the engine development. Obviously, they're running low on parts, but
yes,
surely it gets better quickly for Aston Martin, right?
you would assume so, especially if it's Adrian Newey at the helm. I mean, okay, to be fair, he has never been at the helm before, but like you'd think a guy who has what, like 15,000 constructors titles under his belt would be competent.
Yeah, he at least knows what an F1 operation looks like, right? Like,
Yes.
um, and also there's been hopeful enough news coming out from Honda saying, "Oh, well, we fixed this main problem with the vibrations," or "Oh, we've done this," or "Oh, we have encouraging results on this," where like it doesn't feel like all hope is lost, but at the same time, it all looks so comically incompetent in a way that I would never expect to happen in any premier racing series, much less literally Formula One.
Yeah, that's I don't get how it got this bad. I mean, you'd think that again, as you said, an F1 team with pedigree like Aston Martin, you'd think they wouldn't be this bad, but who knows? Um, I don't know. It's just nuts. It's it's a little rough. Speaking of a little rough, on a plane,
Oh
Kimi
boy.
Antonelli and Isaac Hadjar leaked. Allegedly, this is all alleged, but according to some people, Isaac Hadjar and Kimi Antonelli were talking too loudly on a plane, and apparently the Bahrain and Saudi Arabia Grand Prix are going to be canceled. Again, this is all alleged, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was the truth.
Yeah, and there were pictures of both of them on a plane, or at least people that look scarily like both of them, attached to the post claiming this, which I think is it lends some credibility to it. But yeah, this was widely expected. It's not surprising, but to hear it reported in that way of like Isaac going, well, at least you guys will win two fewer races. Like, what do you mean? And there still, by the way, is no official announcement on the fate of those two races. Although if they are canceled, it is expected that they won't be replaced on the calendar.
Yes. Now there was talk that Imola would come back and was it Portimao or whatever? It was a Portuguese track
Yeah.
would be replacing them, but it looks like that's not going to happen. Although I don't get why they can't get Imola.
I think the reality is putting on when it was COVID era and you weren't really worried about spectators and stuff like that, and you were just trying to fill a weekend, and so you could have back to backs, you could have weekends come in.
Hmm.
It's a bit harder when the race is literally a month away and you would need to start from scratch on all of the logistics of getting people to and from, of like everything that involves getting all of those people in and out as well.
Hmm.
Um,
That makes sense.
where if they had more lead time, or if there weren't as many fans in the picture, it might be easier to drop at a different track at kind of a moment's notice.
Yeah. Now I do want to also mention Qatar is also, if this issue in the Middle East continues, which I expect it will because of the current government in the U.S.
Oh, and not to get into the like politics of it too much, but also I believe Iran just named a leader that does not align with I think what the US was hoping for in all of this, which doesn't
Yes.
necessarily point to I don't know, a quick resolution.
Yes. So Qatar also might be up in the air because we already know that WEC canceled the first race of the season. Qatar is not happening. They will be starting in I forget where, but the WEC season starts in like a month or two. It'll be a little bit, but Qatar is at the end of the season.
Yes, it is at late November and then Abu Dhabi in early December.
Yes, so those two might be under question if the conflict is still going on, which we hope it ends. But if it is still going on, those will be under fire as well to be canceled. Speaking of canceled, I don't know that I don't know. I'm going to be honest. There are sometimes I have no clue if I have a transition or not. I don't have a transition for this one, but BYD is exploring potential F1 entry, and you know what? We'll talk about it right now because it's same thing. They're also looking at a potential entry to WEC as well. So, Jack, would you like to talk about that? Because I did not know about this.
So BYD is one of the premier EV companies in the world, if not the premier. Um, they are not sold in the US because, in general, Chinese EVs are not sold in the US for political reasons, um, which is kind of a shame because if you want to talk about value, like Chinese EVs are both good and incredibly cheap, which points to some of the reasons why they're not allowed in the U.S. market. But BYD is the highest selling electric car maker, passing Tesla last year. They are the sixth highest um, car manufacturer in terms of sales overall in the world, overtaking Ford last year. Um, this is an automotive giant that sells basically everywhere except the US. And they've been looking to get into motorsports. So, fan reaction to thinking about an F1 entry is, oh God, we're going to go even further towards EVs, aren't we? If they went to 50-50 to get Audi into the sport, are they going to go closer to 100 to get an EV only company in? The answer to that is no. More than likely, they either partner with someone with experience on traditional, like, internal combustion engines, or they're a customer team that contributes on the battery side because BYD does make all of their batteries in house for their cars. So that is an area where they would use something like F1 for development. But, it is. I think that a Chinese company coming in was expected at some point, especially in the wake of Cadillac coming in as an American company. I think that this is as good a candidate as you get, and I think that there are a lot of ways to align the current state of F1 with an EV only manufacturer and still have it make sense.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Out of the engine manufacturers that are not in Formula One, I mean not in, so no Ford, no Honda, no Mercedes, no whatever. Who would you like to see with them pair up with the most? Because I have my pick, but my pick is very much rooted in my own personal interests.
Well, I think that there are two ways that there are two places that my brain goes at first. Um, for one, and these were comments that I saw online that I just thought were funny. Um, it would never happen, surely. Like, I'm sure that instead they would just partner with another Chinese manufacturer or something like that, right? Or a business partner in general.
Mm-hmm.
But something like a Dodge that has the opposite problem, that has
Ooh.
expertise in internal combustion engines, that has a rich history in kind of traditional engines, but has really struggled in their implementation of EVs. Kind of a partnership between them where, you know, like the Dodge has what? Their fully electric Challenger is like kind of a nightmare. That's one of the ones that plays the sound outside of the car to like mimic
Yeah.
the real engine, but it's just done terribly. Um, that would be kind of funny. The other place that my brain goes is someone that would probably benefit a little from further investment in something electrified, in like a Porsche, where you have someone that has a rich history in racing in engines, but is also openly moving toward electrification in a big way. Um, that maybe that partnership somehow makes sense, but
I agree with you. I think I was first thought in my head Porsche. They have the history in Formula One. They were, I believe, one of the original F1 teams, or at least they when it first became a Grand Prix, like a whole series in 1950. But shortly afterward, they came into the sport, and they weren't in the sport for long. But Dan Gurney did race for them, which Jack, you now know who Dan Gurney is. But I would love to see Porsche purely again based off of their merit in racing, their merit in Formula One in the past. Overall, just a good car company for the most part. I would like to see them pair up. I'd like to see them come back to F1. Obviously, I would love to see them have a team in Formula One, but I will take them as an engine manufacturer. So I would not be mad if they went with Porsche. But I agree with you on. I think they're going to go like in China, like fully, just pair up with a combustion engine manufacturer in China.
yeah, I
Now,
to add to the fact that it would most likely be another Chinese manufacturer. Um, a couple of years ago, BYD was kind of pushing a campaign toward collaboration with other Chinese auto manufacturers against the world, kind of like it's been a point to kind of counter the external global image of Chinese cars, especially historically, for some of these companies to work together. Um, and I think that is definitely the most likely outcome. There's kind of an existing collaborative spirit in a way, even though they're obviously competitors, that would not exist with a non-Chinese manufacturer.
yes. Now let's get on to the Australian Grand Prix. I'm going to let Jack yap a bit before I say my thoughts, because I did not type anything in this doc. This is, by the way, very few times. Actually, it's been more often now that I've taken on a lot more at school. But Jack has fully done this document. So let's give a round of applause for Jack.
I was going to say, so if you wonder why the stories are worse than usual.
If you wonder why everything is way worse than usual, blame him.
Yeah.
No, but this is Jack's doc. He put a ton of notes in for the Australian Grand Prix. So, Jack, I'm going to let you take it away.
Well, I was watching the whole weekend with my notes app out, and so I basically copy and pasted the highlights here. But first, I want to say that I know that you and I, Alex, were going back and forth on this during the weekend, but Mercedes was sandbagging up until qualifying, basically.
I got overly confident after FP1, and then quali came around, and I got my heart ripped out. So,
Because, like, in Q3, they were doing quali sims toward the end. Everyone goes out on fresh tires. The Mercedes go out on fresh tires. Kimi crashes. Red flag. George keeps those soft tires on. Now, like, used. He had driven most of a lap, went purple in the first two sectors. You know, if this was qualifying, they changed tires for sure because they're, now used. He goes out and still comfortably rips the fastest lap of the session in those sims on those tires when everyone else was still doing, like, quali sim, right? And that was kind of a teaser of, okay, qualifying's about to be a bloodbath. And by and large, it was. Ferrari helped by the fact that I think they would have been closer if they didn't screw up their energy deployment. Like they definitely shot themselves in the foot a bit, but it still would have been like half a second difference between them and Mercedes anyway. Um, but yeah, FP1 especially, Mercedes was like super sandbagging, and FP2 was similar, where Mercedes was the fastest in like race pace, like in the longer runs, but just never really went out on a true like faster run. Like it almost felt like they were managing it to not stand out, which is kind of a theme of the weekend for Mercedes. It feels like.
Well, do you want to talk about quality now? Because listen. I know how many notes you have. You just start rambling. I will talk second.
Well, I mean, quali specifically, I don't have a ton. I mean, Antonelli, red flag crash. They get his car barely ready. No setup changes really. Just, oh shoot, we have to get a car on track in like 2 hours. Manage it. Still qualifies P2 comfortably. George P1 comfortably. Mercedes, if you go into like, all those F1 data accounts that try to piece together like a true qualifying speed, Mercedes looks like they had the best car by about 5/10, which lines up, I think, with the eye test pretty well, where they ended up getting a bit more than that because, again, Ferrari really shot themselves in the foot. And Verstappen, obviously, really shot himself in the foot. I don't know if you want to talk about that for a second.
Okay. I don't blame this on Max. I blame this on the new regs because that's basically what it was. Max was on his first lap, just started. It was like turn 1 or something like that. Both rear tires lock up. And then he goes into the barriers and his day is done in quali. P20 is where he was starting. It was an issue. I forget what the actual issue was, but it was an issue with the new like regs. Like it wasn't Max's fault. It was all due to the new regs and like the systems that they have in place now for those cars. Which sucked because Max had a super good race, which I bet Jack will touch upon and I'll touch upon in a bit. But he did get taken out of quali after like literally one lap. Not even. It was like first corner.
And his teammate Hadjar did qualify P3. It was 8/10 behind George Russell, but you can imagine that the gap to Russell would be closer if Ferrari energy deployment wasn't totally screwed up and if Max was still in qualifying because, we know what Max can do in a car. Now, Hadjar was ahead of Max in the practice sessions for much of the weekend, but it's still Max Verstappen. Like, I'm sorry. You can't convince me that Max wouldn't pull something in Q3 if given the opportunity. Like, he's just... I may not have always been the, rooting for him, speaking of like an Abu Dhabi 21 and the aftermath kind of sequence, but you can't deny that he is just an incredible race car driver.
No, he is, I would argue, all-time pure pace. He is comfortably inside the top 2.
Yeah. I would say, yeah. I was going to say, and I don't think he's 2, but I'm actually not going to say that. I'm going to take that back.
Because I think on, like, if you're talking about on their day, I think you can put Lewis, Max, Schumacher, Senna all at one. But on average, Max has some of the best pace you've ever seen in your lifetime.
I think Max's strength, too, is pulling it out of cars that have no business doing that. Because I think there's a difference between being otherworldly in a car that suits you. And obviously, setup-wise, he does a lot to suit his cars to himself. But he's been able to be competitive in cars that have no business sniffing the front.
I mean, well, let's just talk about his early years. I mean, real quick. I mean, he was in a car. Yeah, it was a good car, right? Ricardo was still winning races. But, like, Max Verstappen started out in F1, immediately got promoted, and then was just amazing in a car that was clearly third best to Ferrari and obviously Mercedes at the time. And even some years were fourth best. and he'd still win races and get on the podium. And he's just insanely quick. No matter what car, you could put that Aston Martin in front of him, and he'd probably qualify on the podium. So, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Max. What else is there to say? But Mercedes, they were the best car by about 5/10 in qualifying. Evidence points to them being about that much faster than the other teams in the race. It's just, it was weird in the race because it really felt like they were managing a lot of the time. And I'm sure that you saw this as well. Like when Mercedes pitted under the virtual safety car, Ferrari did not. Obviously, Mercedes had a tire advantage, maybe 10 laps worth of a tire advantage.
it was I think to when it was Lewis, it was like a 13 lap. No, you're right. It was 11. No, I'm just an idiot. It was like yeah. No, I'm stupid.
Well, I said 10. I said about 10. Like I wasn't. I wasn't sure.
The safety car came out on lap 11. So,
all right. So yeah, and they're on hards at that point. They were gaining on Lewis at will. They were gaining on both Ferraris at the front at will, to the point where basically instantly they would have just about closed off the VSC window anyway. If Ferrari were to try to pit under the VSC after that. And despite that, Mercedes is out in front after Ferrari ends up pitting just under green because they don't get a safety car in the window that they want one. They're kind of unable to pit during the second safety car, but it didn't seem like they really wanted to then anyway.
Yeah, Lewis was on the radio during that second one saying, "Do not pit me, my tires are fine." And then Mercedes caught up in like 5 laps. So
yeah, exactly. But once Mercedes was out in front, they were basically maintaining a constant gap to the Ferraris behind for the entire rest of the race. And yes, George and Kimi both were trying to go like 40-something laps on those hard tires.
43 laps or something like that.
Which is an incredibly long stint. And so, yes, you're managing the tires for that. But even with that, you'd see Charles take like a few tenths out, and suddenly George is going a few tenths faster. Like, it just felt like they were managing the gap behind them to stay semi-comfortably ahead, but not get too far ahead, which circles back to the additional development opportunities that we were talking about with Aston Martin being so far behind, and conspiracy theories about them taking advantage of that, trying to get that to really set themselves up moving forward. There's a lot of talk about Mercedes trying to prevent their opponents from getting that. That Mercedes is trying to win races by as little as possible. Not as little as possible. Obviously, they're not, within a second of the cars behind. But trying to avoid that 3% threshold that would let Ferrari and Red Bull get more opportunities to develop their powertrains, right? And that makes it a really interesting next couple weeks here. I think that the Australian track really set itself up to benefit Mercedes having a really strong power unit, where China may not. China may, obviously it has that very long straight, but otherwise you have, more slower corners that may level the playing field on some of the battery side of this. But
well, I just want to point out that Ferrari car is really good in those slow to medium corners, while the Mercedes is easily better on the straights, but worse than Ferrari on those medium to slow corners.
Yeah.
So it can make it interesting, but
I'm not sure how much I lean into a lot of that, because some of the yes, it does look like the Ferrari has some better aero. I still think that there were a lot of people saying that didn't seem to fully acknowledge that the Mercedes car was still pretty strong in those corners. Like that, the difference there wasn't.
The Mercedes is still strong in those corners, but Ferrari does have the edge there, which could, as you said, help even the playing field this weekend.
Yes. And with that, I'm gonna start jumping around a bit. The Ferrari engine seemed to be throughout the weekend almost like the 4th best as far as the power that they had access to. And part of that was because they were still figuring out their deployment. It did seem better on a race day, but a lot of people, obviously the Mercedes and Red Bull powertrain seemed to be stronger. The Audi one also seemed like a pretty solid engine. Obviously the Audi car, not as much. Like that's still, you still see shades of Sauber involved there, but that engine was pretty good. Um, and it makes you think like, yes, Ferrari does seem to have a slight aero advantage. Ferrari from testing had such like really absurdly strong reliability um, in testing, which who knows how much that really connects. But that power deficit might be significant. Um, I don't know if you have any kind of thoughts on that, where the Red Bulls seem to have like a much stronger engine than Ferrari as well overall.
So I don't exactly know. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, nobody really knows, but we're not far enough in the season for that to be clear yet. But I will say that although Ferrari looked not as good throughout the whole weekend, during the race, their race start and those opening laps between Lewis, Charles, and George Russell were very close. Now, obviously, Lewis hung back a little bit, and maybe Mercedes was like, we'll just let it ride. We'll stay behind Charles. But Charles was able to get ahead of George and stay ahead for a decent bit before the VSC came out. Now, I don't know how much of that is Mercedes telling George to just sit behind and wait, and George actually trying to push. But it looked like he was trying to get ahead quite often because he tried it like 5 different corners and couldn't get past at either point. Comparative to the rest of the grid, I mean, again, Ferrari's race start was just so good that I can't tell because they weren't really racing anybody else. They were just racing Mercedes at the beginning, and then after that, they were racing nobody. So I do not know, but they did put like 30 seconds on the cars behind them towards the end of the race. So at least 30, because it was a gap between Lewis in fourth and Lando in fifth. There was like a 30-second gap.
So I'll kind of respond to both of those in order. Talking about the race start first, because I think that's what you mentioned first.
Yes.
The Ferrari race start was much stronger than the Works Mercedes race starts. This much is true. Antonelli spun his wheels, which basically killed his entire race start and made a lot of weird stuff happen in that lane. And Russell sacrificed some of his start energy-wise to try to cover off Hajar behind him, which did open the door for Leclerc especially, but also Hamilton had a mega start. And it was strong. I think that some of those other circumstances, like the two Mercedes start being weak for other reasons, overshadowed the rest of the grid's starts. So the fastest start, the fastest time to 200 kilometers per hour, was in a Mercedes-powered car, was Carlos Sainz. The two Ferraris were second and third. Fourth, fifth, sixth fastest were all Mercedes-powered. Actually, that's a lie. Fourth is Ferrari powered. Fifth, sixth is Mercedes powered. I forgot that Ocon is in a Haas. Ignore that. And then you have Valtteri, and then you have Gasly, Lindblad, and then Russell finally kicks in. Where like Mercedes got the fastest start. Mercedes has half of that top six. There isn't really as much of a gap in the race start overall as people were saying there'd be with all the talk of the different size turbos and the different designs of the engines. It was more that Mercedes themselves just screwed it up. Than Ferrari having like a mega start.
Yep. I do want to point out, though, that Lewis went from 7th to 3rd. Granted, if Kimi had a good race start, he might not have gotten a 3rd. He might have just stuck in 4th. But, like, we have to also take into account that Ferrari, like, besides Ferrari themselves, the rest of those cars that have Ferrari powertrains are kind of not good. Like Cadillac, Haas. There's one other one.
But when people were going crazy and testing about the Ferrari starts, the Haas's were also getting crazy starts. Like it was put that it was about the engine and not about something that Ferrari specifically did. And all I'm trying to point out is that Mercedes was up there in the race start times. Obviously, Sainz was even faster than anyone, but it was all competitive. They were all in the same ballpark. And with Lewis going 7th to 3rd, do keep in mind that the grid spot in front of him was empty, with Piastri crashing out, which I don't think that we talked about yet.
Oh, you're right.
And then obviously the two ahead of that were Russell and Hadjar, where Hadjar didn't get the best start. He was actually one of the slowest drivers to 200 kilometers an hour from the start. Russell was faster than Hadjar, but still didn't have a great start on by himself. And so in that lane, it was kind of Lewis gap in front of him, and then he's fighting Hadjar and Russell, right?
Didn't Lindblad also pass Hadjar in that first corner?
Yes, Lindblad did get by. Lindblad's start was kind of middle of the pack, so it was good. It was certainly not as bad as like Hadjar's. And Lindblad did have a very good start as far as keeping it on track, placing the car in the right place, driving very aggressively for a rookie, but not in a dangerous way. And he did, in fact, get by the kind of parent team. I don't want to call it sister team because the Red Bull is clearly just a much better car. So, claps for Lindblad. And on the race start note, a lot of drivers seemed to start the race with empty batteries. It seemed like a lot of teams were surprised by some of the different rules on the formation lap, and with what it took to get the tires up to temperature and all of that. And so there were a handful of drivers that were starting with no battery, which you can't use it to get up to 50 anyway, but that's still, the battery is so hugely important with these engines that you want to have some battery in your car for that first lap. And a good amount of drivers just did not, which is concerning. But I don't expect the start gap to be that significant. Antonelli surely learns from the wheel spin. George maybe doesn't try to make that move and instead acknowledges that there are other drivers that can threaten him besides the one directly behind him. We'll see going forward.
Now, I do want to point out that George Russell is normally not on pole.
Okay.
Or on the front row.
I mean, he's started there before.
He has. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he is normally not on the front or the front row. So this is a whole new ball game with the car that he has, especially. So I highly doubt he'll make that mistake again. But we do want to point out that he is a little bit unexperienced when it comes to starting on pole compared to a driver like Charles or Max or Lewis or,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then going back to, you were talking about the racing where Charles Leclerc got in front. There was a lot of back and forth, but almost kind of a fake back and forth between them. That really felt like it almost felt damning on. There are two ways to look at it. Either you go full NASCAR mentality, okay, that was great because they were close, or you go what many NASCAR fans' mentality is, it doesn't really matter how close it is if you can't pass anyone. Where George was able to stay right behind the Ferrari. The Ferrari was not driving away from him in any meaningful way, but he could never make a pass stick, despite the fact that he could be driving 0.2 behind that Ferrari constantly. As soon as he gets past with the way that the batteries work and all of that, Charles just got right back around him, right?
Which one could say that's just better racecraft by Charles.
Yeah, Charles' racecraft was great. I think that if the positions were swapped, in overall, because when George got by, it was never in a situation where he then could get the advantage to kind of strike back if Charles attacked him with the battery, right? Which is what Charles was doing. It was, okay, I'll let you pass me. You've used up your battery. Goodbye. over and over and over again. I have no doubts that George could do the same thing the other way around if he had the track position. It's a little concerning to see a battle like that draw out for like 10 laps where a clearly faster car cannot get around someone in regs that are designed, that were at least theoretically designed to be able to have better racing and better passing ability than the previous ones. Because it was clear that George was in a much faster car, but kind of stuck behind Charles. And you could also tell from the lap times for sure. I mean, Antonelli was chasing all of them down after having a really tough start. But yeah, so yes, the Ferrari was faster than some of the cars behind them, for sure. I don't think they were even as close to the Mercedes pace-wise as they ended up being at that kind of start of the race.
No, I think once the Mercedes got those fresher tires and they got their act together a little bit, I think that's when there was no doubt that they were going to win that race. But I do think that had Ferrari possibly pitted during that virtual safety car, I think it would have been at least a little bit more exciting on the racing end. And I think maybe if Charles and Lewis kept doing what they were doing, they could have taken it maybe to Mercedes for a little longer. Obviously, once the fresher tires and Mercedes again got their stuff together, obviously it was no brainer. But I think if Ferrari had better strategy, I think the race would have looked not a lot more different. I still think Mercedes would have gotten by at some point, but it definitely would have been a lot closer to what it actually was.
Yeah, all I'm trying to say is that I think that falls on the regs in these cars, that it's just very hard to pass, more so than it does on Ferrari's car being stronger than what I was saying.
Yes.
Like that, just with these batteries having what feels like very small capacity versus how powerful they are, cars dying out on straights, you have to really choose where you're using it. It is really hard to be the attacking car and make it stick without, I mean, George did it easily on Lewis, but that was with a significant tire advantage, right? And otherwise, you just did not see that happen on track, like, ever. And obviously, did not see ever is underplaying that there was a lot of fighting going on in the midfield, but we're talking about contenders that are on closer to equal cars than some of the drivers in the midfield were. I don't know. I think that we'll see in a more representative track, because Australia is definitely a much faster track overall than many. But it was maybe fun to watch, but maybe a concerning start for these regs for the actual race product.
I also want to say, I forgot what I was going to say. Nope, continue. Go on.
On the topic of the race start, which I forgot to mention before, did you watch the exact start of the race?
Yeah, you're going to talk about Colapinto?
No. Although a lot of his fans have always been insane, frankly. But a lot of his fans were like crying about how he got penalized for moving or something. No, he was penalized for someone touching his car before the race start. And then he had a crazy awesome move. Like, that was bananas.
That's like, that rivals Isaac Hadjar's in Monaco when he was in F2, where like the guy was going so slowly and he just whoop.
Yeah. That was beautiful. Probably will be up there for move of the season, even though obviously it's the very beginning of the season.
I don't care what move happens. I would gladly vote that as move of the season. I don't care what else happens.
I was talking about the start sequence. So we had 5 seconds of like warm up time, but the fifth light was only on for like the absolute minimum time. I think in the regs it could be 0.2 to 3 seconds, but it said that its typical range is 2 to 3 seconds. It was on for like 1 frame on the broadcast. It was like doot 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 go. Like, it was just instant. As soon as the fifth light came on, it was out. And I think that also contributed to a lot of the weird starts that we saw, right? Because teams were having issues spooling up their turbos, depending on the turbo size. We had the extra 5 seconds, but there were also drivers that just seemed caught on the back foot. Like,
They
people
call it
weren't
sleeping.
expecting it to come 2 seconds earlier than the typical range for it is. And it also just felt weird watching on the broadcast. It was like all this hype leading into the first race of the season, and I didn't even realize it started. Like it was too fast. I don't know what your thoughts on that were.
I thought it was fun. I don't know. I liked it a lot better than the 2 seconds. I don't want to know when that. I don't want to know. Like normal F1 races, you know, you can kind of guess when it's going to go off. I don't want to know. If they do that, like obviously don't do that every race, but like mix it up a little bit. You know, that's what I like to see.
Yeah, I mean,
Get
it's
them on
still
their toes.
there's still a full like second range for when they usually do it, but I feel like when you have a bit longer delay on that fifth light, it adds the kind of the gravitas, and then you get the like lights out and away we go. You know, it sets up for that better than, oh shoot, the light barely turned on. But it just felt weird, especially when the starts were such a controversy coming in. But maybe that was their
Yeah.
peace offering to like, okay, we'll add 5 seconds at the start, but we'll also take away 2 seconds. I don't know. And then my last note on the race really was just, what did you think about the Apple TV coverage if you watched on Apple TV?
I watched on F1 TV, which I feel like I don't know if it was a different broadcast than Apple TV, but I did see that the what's it called? The seconds in between is just 1.1, 2.4, 5.6, and I was like, I don't really care about that. I know you bring back the thousands. I don't give a damn.
I care about it actually, big time.
I don't. I don't really care. If they're in 1.2 seconds and it's like 1.29 or 1.21, that's not a big enough difference to actually matter.
It is in the sense that this is a series that measures to the thousandth for everything. Specifically, the overtake mode is 1 time a lap, checks whether you're within 1.000 seconds. The graphic will show 1.0 for anything between 0.95 and 1.05, when there is a huge distinction to be made between 0.99 and 1.01, right? In a specific case like that I think that we have the data. F1 measures based on the data. Show the fans the data. There's no reason to simplify it to the level of the like kids broadcast when you were perfectly fine showing it before. It also is helpful for things like when the Mercedes were kind of managing the Ferraris, like when Charles was theoretically chasing but wasn't really making up a ton of ground. It was sometimes kind of hard to see what was happening in that battle because of both only seeing it intense and not seeing it update super frequently, it felt like. Like, it's different than when you see the thousands update, like, regularly, even if the gap is similar. You get a better sense for it. It was hard to get as good of a sense of that battle playing out when you had less granular timing info. But also, personally, my favorite part of the Apple TV broadcast was that Colapinto got a Colapinto and go penalty.
Yes, that was a beauty. I saw someone get a post on that. I saw that during the race. I'm like, do I post about this? Nah, I won't do it. And then I saw someone post about it, and they got like 100,000, like 300,000 views, and I was like, fudge. I need to be faster.
I'm not sure I won't watch the Sky feed in future races, which is available, for those who don't know, on Apple TV. You can click alternate feeds, and you can get alternate feeds directly in the Apple TV app. But I think that it's still a fine product. They clearly put a good bit into it. They didn't Americanize the broadcast too much. And they had some minor slip-ups. They also definitely had some graphical issues at the end. But it's their first race. Like, I can let that slide. Plus, the Colapinto and go is really funny.
I hope they do a Russell and go next. That's funny.
But those are my notes for the week, I believe. I don't know if you have any more.
No, you basically covered it. I mean, for next week, Ferrari's bringing in their new special wing that turns all the way upside down. So that's pretty sick. That should have helped them a little bit, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
We don't actually
Do you
know
think
if
it will?
it helps. You know what? I'm hoping it does, but I have no clue. I mean, allegedly the data show that it did help a little, but like not enough to actually matter.
Yeah, because I personally just don't fully understand it. I think it would it has a huge impact on creating a bunch of drag while it's turning like that. So you have to manage when it's turning to like take advantage of the wing being basically upright in like a corner or something when you're trying to slow down. Like it's probably really helpful in the braking zone at the end of the straight to have like a ton of drag there to kind of slow you down and then a bunch of downforce after that. But it feels like you don't want generally a wing that's perfectly flat upright, right? Like otherwise teams would design it like that in the first place. And so it's spinning. It feels like it spends way too much time in that upright position that maybe you just have to be really creative with how, like, when you're turning it. But there are designated straight mode zones anyway. So, like, they can't really be all that creative. So I don't know. I mean, I'll have to see it play out. Clearly, the data shows it works. I'm a little skeptical.
I think they're just using it to get more ad space and money for their brand.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying.
Everyone's talking about him.
They got the HP on the wing, and then he turned it over, got IBM, or whatever the hell it's called. But yeah, so they're bringing that on track. Hopefully that'll be fun. I chose Lewis. He got P4. Jack chose George. He won. Predictions for China. Now, I picked a driver who won the sprint last year.
Oh yeah, he did.
But got disqualified from the race.
Oh yeah, he did.
The main race. So I am again going with Lewis Hamilton. This is basically my Denny Hamlin from last year for NASCAR Cup Series, where I was like, Denny's going to do it. Denny's going to do it. And then he almost did it. This is my Denny Hamlin pick. I'm going to basically always pick Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to my guns with George. Now, if the race that we saw was truly representative of both teams' performance, I think that Lewis or Charles would be the smart pick here, just because of the kind of track that China is. I'm making this pick based on it really did feel like Mercedes had a few tenths in their pocket on Ferrari. That you could tell, like when the Mercedes were chasing the Ferrari, they had just easy pace catching up. Making the pass is a different story in these regs. But with the idea that they were managing, trying to prevent the ADUO, whatever else, surely Mercedes has enough of an advantage going into this race that they can overcome maybe the style differences that would benefit Ferrari at this specific track.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. I'm hoping Lewis or Charles, but I wouldn't be mad at George again. Let's get into NASCAR. Alex Bowman has vertigo. Allegedly, for this weekend, Justin Allgaier will be joining the truck. Yeah, I did see that. Justin Allgaier will be entering the 48 instead of Alfredo, which I don't agree with the decision. I think Alfredo deserves another shot, especially after what Joey Logano did to him last weekend. But it is what it is. Also, Garrett Mitchell, a.k.a. Booger McFarland. No, I'm just kidding. Cleetus McFarland. Every time, man. No, that was actually intentional, though. But Cleetus McFarland signs a 2-year deal with RCR for O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Now, there's been a bigger conversation on driver approvals and how strict NASCAR can be with them. And what is he going to do on the to the Rock in an RCR O'Reilly car after crashing in his Rockingham truck test and crashing his fault 5 laps into the truck race at Daytona?
Yeah.
Jack's words, not mine.
I mean, they were also kind of his words. Like, in his interview after he crashed, he was like, yeah, that's on me.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
but yeah, this just, on one hand, happy for him. I don't want to trash on a guy for taking the opportunities he's given. On the other hand, man, does it suck seeing guys that race ARCA for their whole careers and can't get approved for trucks. Seeing girls, in the case of like Jennifer Jo Cobb, who was not approved for, I think it was Talladega, despite running many, many years in the trucks, and running many, many super speedway races in her career. And then you have a guy
running many, many years in ARCA.
Yeah. And then you have a guy who has run a handful of National Series stock car races, has not performed particularly well in them, He's managed to stay on track in some cases, but he certainly does not have the body of work that a lot of people who get rejected have. When he has had his approval test, like at Rockingham, he crashed in his truck test, still got approved for Daytona. In his truck race at Daytona, crashed of his own doing, like 5 laps in, because the racecraft, he could keep the truck straight, but the racecraft just wasn't there in any meaningful way. And I have no doubt that he's talented. I feel like this is undeserved. And I feel like this is potentially bad, because success for him would be keeping the car in one piece and finishing the race at Rockingham, especially at a track like Rockingham. The problem is he's in an RCR car. Like, that car is too good for him to just ride around in the back and keep the car in one piece, which feels like the ideal outcome for this race. The rest of his deal is contingent on him performing well at Rockingham, or at least performing up to RCR's standard. So, there's not too much to criticize. It's not like they're handing him a full-time ride in Austin Hill's car. But
which I wouldn't be bad at. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. That's a joke.
It still feels like it's making a mockery of a lot of the systems here, where, to be clear, I am not trashing him. I'm not trashing his channel. I'm not trashing his fans. I think that him being involved can only be a net positive for publicity reasons. I feel like NASCAR is leaning too far into the publicity and being really inconsistent in a sad way here.
I will take a shot at Cleetus. I don't think he's a bad person. I like his YouTube channel. I like his videos. Does he deserve to be in the O'Reilly or the Truck Series? Absolutely not. Does he deserve to be in the ARCA Menard Series? Absolutely not. Start with late models. Work your way up like everybody else has that you have passed for no reason. If you do well and learn in late models, then move up to ARCA. Do well in ARCA, move up the trucks, do well in trucks, move up to O'Reilly, and then maybe if you're good enough in like 10 years and you have the resume, go to the Cup. It's disrespectful to everyone who is below him, who has done better than him, and who continues to do better than him, and they are still not given a shot. Cleetus, I bet he's a swell guy. He seems such a good person. But he doesn't deserve to be in the O'Reilly Series. He doesn't deserve to be in the Truck Series or the ARCA Menard Series, much less driving for RCR. Again, if he worked his way up, even at his age, right? He's in his like mid-20s, maybe early 20s. I don't actually know. I think he's in his mid-20s. But if he works his way up, I wouldn't be mad at this, right? If he at least got more than like 4 races under his belt, I wouldn't be mad at this. If he had 20, 30, 40, again, if he just keeps the car intact, I mean, I guess so. But again, there are so many drivers who have gotten denied, who have way better resumes than this guy. And the publicity is just, the wish and the want for publicity is just too much.
I am going to fully agree with almost everything you said, although I actually think the ARCA Series would be a perfect place for him to cut his teeth for a year. Like, do a full season of ARCA and then see from there. I think that he has raced enough else, and ARCA is all over the place as a series where you have like 60-plus-year-olds that are just racing for fun in there. That I think that he would be a perfect fit for ARCA right now. He'd still get on TV. He'd still be cutting his teeth at the same NASCAR tracks in stock cars. But once you get up to the top 3 levels of NASCAR, that's way too much.
Listen, I would be fine if, realistically, I think I'd be fine with him in the ARCA Menard Series if he ran it full time, not extremely like 1 race a year like he does now. The reason why I say late models is because late models are normally on shorter ovals, and that'll help him grasp ovals a little bit better than just sticking him in Menards for a full year. And again, he might do well in Menards in a full year. Who knows? But I feel like shorter ovals first, build your way up to bigger ovals like the Menards, like the trucks, like the O'Reilly, like the Cup would be a much better option just starting out, even if it's like 5 or 10 races in late models and then going in ARCA. I don't really care. But I think the smaller ovals, the less powered cars, I think would be a lot better for somebody who is new to this style of racing.
Yeah. I also want to highlight
why.
Frankie Muniz of Malcolm in the Middle fame is running full-time in trucks again. after running full-time in trucks. He is not in a particularly great truck, certainly not the equivalent of an RCR or Riley car. He is earning his place. He has raced a while to earn that place. And, there's still a bit of a lack of respect from other drivers in the series, but you cannot argue that he's going about it the right way. And I almost wish the same for Cleetus. Even if it was a year in ARCA, a year full-time in trucks, even if it's 1 year at each stage, even if you're, rushed up because of the media coverage or whatever, but you're at least putting in the time at each of these stages, it would also feel more rewarding, I think, for the fans to follow along, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, okay, he's handed a few O'Reilly races in a great car. His goal is to start a Daytona 500, and then what? He's clearly not serious about being an actual racer. It's just, what do I need to do to get into a Daytona 500? I don't know.
Yeah, that part seems a little fake too. It's like, I get it. Daytona 500, the cream of the crop for American stock car racing, but that, I feel like if you're racing, you shouldn't just be racing for one race. You should be racing because you enjoy it, you like to race, you want to do it, and you have fun with it, and you want to make it a career. Now, again, this isn't a knock on Cleetus. He seems like a fine guy, but if that's your only goal, I mean, I don't know if I would support that if I were any team in any series.
Yeah.
Because it'd just be a stunt. It's just a stunt. That's all it is. He's not going to try to build the sport. If he was also just wanting to build the sport, that would be fine. But it doesn't seem like that's his attitude. That's not what he wants to do. And although he may claim it, I want to race a Daytona 500 and then I'm done, doesn't seem like you're trying to grow out the sport. Now, again, he seems like a cool dude. I like his videos, but, it just seems a little fake. And that's not a knock on him. I mean, it's a fine goal, right? I think a lot of people would want to race in the Daytona 500 at least once. But I think it's just disrespectful to the drivers who came before you, the drivers who will come after you, if you just race to race one race and then that's it. If you're racing, if you just want to race in, motorsports and you race one race in the trucks and you're like, that's it, I achieved my goal, cool. But I don't know. It just seems a little bit too much. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree. If I can butt in with something completely non-NASCAR.
Yes.
Currently, there are 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter of Wizards Heat. Bam Adebayo has 67 points.
God damn. Okay. Go off, Bam. You didn't need Jimmy anyway. Why is the Heat always so good after the All-Star break? Why are they so garbage the first half and the second half they're so good?
A wonderful question.
Make it make sense. Who is their coach? Is it Spoelstra?
I assume so.
If it's Spoelstra, what are you doing, mate? Let's go to our recap. Blaney.
Yeah, I was watching this race and I was kicking myself. I picked Briscoe because I honestly wanted Briscoe to do well, but I was kicking myself. Why in the world did I not pick Ryan Blaney at Phoenix? And all race, stuff kept happening, but he was just too good. He was the class of the field all day. That car was.
Yeah.
Got it done.
Blaney was so incredibly good all day. But Bubba was doing all right.
Yeah.
Joey was doing all right for a while until he wrecked Alfredo indirectly. Yeah.
Bubba and Reddick both were great all day to the point where Phoenix is not his best track. No. I think he would tell you that. I think he always qualifies badly there. I think that he has never been particularly great there. He had a top 5 car today. Reddick had a top 5 caliber car. Or not today, obviously, when the race happened this week. 23-11, yeah, Reddick went 3 for 3 to start the year. Yeah, they're first and third in the points right now because Blaney passed Bubba. They seem for real. If Bubba's running like that at Phoenix, I mean, we'll see. Las Vegas is a true 1.5 mile intermediate track coming up. But 23 feels like they're for real.
Yeah. Bubba finished 6th. Reddick finished 8th. Also, shout out Ty Gibbs, man. He had a damn good race. I mean, he was leading
Yeah.
decently late and then, lost it at the end. But I mean, he was running super well. Um, do you
And
want to
through a
talk
lot
about
of
the
noise.
man?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Do you want
I
to talk
just
about the other guy
I just wanted
that
to
did really
highlight
well?
Ty Gibbs because he's become kind of a main character of the whole JGR Chris Gabehart spat. NASCAR like 3.0 it feels like. Um, because a lot of Gabehart's accusations circle around Ty Gibbs being held to a different standard. Um, and so Ty Gibbs hasn't really said a lot on the matter, but surely he hears all the noise. Putting a performance like this on track is a great way to respond by him.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, I think it was last week. I think we talked about this on the pod last week with like Ty Gibbs and all that. And I was like, maybe we just talked about it in DMs. And I was just like, why is he saying that? Why is he saying that? He should not be saying that. He has not been driving good enough to say that. And I don't know if he will. And then he pulls this out of his ass. And I'm like, all right, well, you know what? Go off, Ty. I mean, go off. Um, but the man I was trying to get Jack to talk about there was Shane Van Gisbergen.
Yes, I wanted to give Ty Gibbs his props.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
Going
fair.
through a lot, but yeah, SVG man, he's coming. He's coming.
Dude, it's actually gross how well he's done on the oval so far this year.
Phoenix was also like one of his worst tracks. One of the ones that he highlighted as like we really want to get better at this kind of track, and get better he did. They were coming into the day saying, "Man, we're really aiming to improve here. If we can get like a top 20 car, God, that would be great." SVG like crashed like twice. Still finished 11th.
Granted, like 9 people DNF'd, but also like
He
that's still
started 18th
impressive. That's still
and moved
impressive.
up from the start. He was running like
Yeah,
14th,
that's
13th
still
like all day.
that's still impressive. I mean, for a driver that didn't race in the oval until like 2 years ago, no, until like last year, pretty much. Because I think he was at mostly all road courses prior to last year. And then I think I think he raced at like one oval prior to his rookie season, and last season looked awful on the ovals, and now looks, all things considered, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because there's only so much you can pull from a super speedway, but here? I mean, come on.
Yeah, he looked elite today, or well, race day. But I had Reddick, I had Love, they didn't win. Jack had Briscoe, Jack had Byron, they didn't win.
Speaking of
Allgaier won
Byron.
the O'Reilly.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I was gonna say just Justin Allgaier won the O'Reilly race.
Speaking of Byron, he was in the 88. He displaced Raja Caruth. We talked about how Caruth has the deal to be full-time in the series. Most of those races are in the 88. He has some races in the Jordan Anderson 32, which is clearly a worse car. There's a reason that they're putting the Cup guys in the JRM car. Raja Caruth finished 8th. Byron finished 13th. I think that says a lot about the racer that Raja Caruth is, that he gets sidelined in a worse car and outperforms the Cup guy. And I look forward to him hopefully doing the same this week, because that would be lovely to see.
I'm gonna be honest. Roger Caruth spent 4 years in the Truck Series, right? He's been my favorite, one of my favorite lower series guys. I'd probably put him in my top 10 favorite drivers in all of NASCAR, right? I thought he would be really good this year because I think he was very deserved of a O'Reilly seat last year, but it's okay. I'll take this year. He has run so incredibly well in O'Reilly this year, consistently, and I mean this, consistently up in the front.
Yeah. 4 races,
Like
3
running,
top 10s, and has really earned them.
I mean, I thought he was going to be. I still think Roger Caruth is one of the best young drivers in NASCAR, and I will think that to the day I die, because he has the talent to be good at the Cup Series. I was not expecting him to catch on this quick, And now I'm starting to think if the truck series is really that good for NASCAR. I'm
I
starting to think that maybe the truck series. Listen, LeVar Scott hasn't ran well in O'Reilly this year. He's now full time. He was in ARCA last year, but LeVar Scott is a great driver as well, great young driver. You're starting to see a lot of drivers skip trucks entirely.
Yeah, I mean, we have been
And
seeing that. Ty Gibbs, Connor Zilic are two high-profile examples.
and I'm starting to think that the truck series is kind of just not the series that it was. And I'm not going to lie. Yes, the O'Reilly cars are a lot more similar to the Cup cars than the truck series and ARCA Menard series, because the truck series are trucks. No other series in NASCAR are trucks. Not even late models are trucks. No racing for stock cars are trucks besides the truck series. Are we going to be seeing more and more people jump trucks to go to ARCA? Is trucks going to become the new ARCA Menard series, where like you have like really old people just racing around in the truck series just for the hell of it, right? That's not a bad thing, but it's starting to look like that series is a little obsolete in the grand scheme of things.
Well, I think that's also been kind of the case with the truck series for a bit, where it's been a series where you get more lifers, it feels like. You get the Crafton types, right? You get basically the whole four sport stable is truck lifers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ben Rhodes, Ty Majeski at this point, that looks like where his career's headed. You got a lot of guys that struggle at the upper series and find a long-term home in the trucks. What's strange is that despite that, it's become a really bad place to try to develop. You would think with all that veteran experience, and yes, it's still a developmental series, it can still be messy at times, but you would think all that experience makes it that if you're a young driver coming up, it should give you valuable learning opportunities. The trucks just don't. I mean, even if you go back to Haley Deegan, who was in trucks for a while, yes, her NASCAR career flamed out, right? But she was week after week after week hitting bad luck in the trucks. She was getting wrecked by other people. Like things were happening to her that were not her own doing constantly. And there's a reason that despite bad results, she moved up to Xfinity, and then that was kind of it for her. But she spent so long in the trucks, and you never really felt like you had a year where you got a great read on what her talent actually looked like. And it feels like that with a lot of truck prospects that then move up. Raja even. Like, he didn't perform as well as his talent, his clearly visible talent would indicate in the trucks for a long time. You put him in O'Reilly and boom, he's performing. It just, and yes, you have the Corey Himes, the Lane Riggs, and Heim has looked the part in O'Reilly and in the Cup series, but it's so confusing.
It's odd, is what it is. I think I'd go as far as saying I don't think they should be racing trucks. I get it's the truck series. I get that. But for the development, there should be an in-between between O'Reilly and ARCA. That's not the trucks. Because, again, the trucks don't handle like ARCA or O'Reilly or the Cup. They're not built for O'Reilly or Cup or ARCA. They're just a weird middle ground of like, yeah, here's a car, just, drive it. Young people can drive it, old people can drive it, who knows? It's just, I don't know. I feel like they should make kind of an in-between between ARCA and O'Reilly and just scrap the trucks entirely, because at least that would give you a stepping stone to O'Reilly and then Cup, But I don't know how you'd go about that anyway, so
I don't mind the sentiment, but the trucks are so iconic. You can't get rid of the
I know
trucks.
that's the issue. Is like like the trucks are fun to watch every week, and I think it's a good series overall. But like for development, it is arguably the stupidest decision you could make from going to ARCA to the trucks. You should just go from ARCA to O'Reilly because the cars are similar, kind of. It's just a bigger like jump in aero and speed and whatever. But like,
Well, ARCA also sucks. ARCA has sucked. But that's
yes.
been a known thing. The trucks becoming
yes.
tough to develop in is kind of a newer thing.
Yes, but I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like the trucks are now just completely obsolete. I mean, I don't. Butterbean is racing in the trucks, and he may be good in the future, but like, I don't know. If I were him, I would have tried to find an O'Reilly series ride before I got trucks, and maybe he didn't have the funding. I don't know what his situation was, but I I don't know. I feel like if I were a driver in ARCA trying to move up, I wouldn't go to trucks. I would wait out ARCA until I got an O'Reilly seat because the trucks don't seem to be it for development.
I think Butterbean's personality actually meshes with a truck ride pretty well. If I'm being honest.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I feel like with the way trucks is headed, I think that it for his and granted we don't know how Butterbean's career is going to go. He's still so young, but if his career doesn't go the way that his ARCA ride did, I would have questions on whether he should have not gone to trucks.
Yeah.
Who knows if Haley Deegan, if she went straight from ARCA to O'Reilly, if things would have been different. There's like a lot of questions. Like, what if the trucks just completely hamper your driving style and your ability and your potential? That's because it's so different. It's iconic, but it's things to think about.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go to predictions for Cup.
Las Vegas?
My God. Dude, I blanked. I was trying to figure out the word for the NASCAR Cup series. The Cup and the O'Reilly series. I'll start. I got Hamlin. This is, again, me doing my bit from last year. That wasn't a bit. I truly believed Hamlin would win it last year, and I will say it again. Denny Hamlin is winning the chip.
I got Reddick. I came away from Phoenix too impressed with 2311 speed to not pick him here.
Next week, I'm picking Bubba. Anyway, wait, next week is not a road course, right? Right? That's Las Vegas. No, it's Darlington. Yeah, we're good. I'm picking Bubba next week. Anyway, for the O'Reilly series, I am picking Kyle Larson. Just the GOAT. I don't know.
He is in the 88. That would mean that you're picking him to finish better than Raja in the 32.
Oh, shoot. I got to pick someone else. Give me a sec. Hold up. No, give me a second. I don't think he's finishing better than... Nope. Go while I look this up.
I got Allgaier. I mean, he has been, in his career, he has been probably the best of the full-time, like the current full-time O'Reilly drivers, the best in his career at Las Vegas. Unsurprising, given that he's been in a JRM car for a decade. Finally got a win there, like a couple of races ago. I got him to do it again.
I'm putting in a nasty pick. This is a nasty pick. This is a disgusting pick from me. I don't know why I'm doing this. I really should go with like Raja or something. But I'm going to go in the guy that I always wreck whenever I play in the ARCA Menard series or O'Reilly series in the NASCAR game, and I'm going with William Sawalich. I know.
Wow.
Nuts pick.
Wow.
But I don't know. Something came to me and I was like, you know what? This is William Sawalich's day. He's racing in the Kyle Busch. I mean, he's been racing the Kyle Busch his entire career, but like still. I don't know. My other pick would have been Sheldon Creed, but I'm going Sawalich. I'm going with the wild card on this one.
All right.
This is a diabolical pick. I understand.
You know what? I'm here for it.
Listen, it's a diabolical pick, but I got to do it. For IMSA, we have nothing. For WEC, we already went over. It's BYD interested in a potential WEC bid along with F1. MotoGP, there's nothing, and there's no races from any of them. Although next week, next week we will be having IMSA. We will be having MotoGP. We shall be having NASCAR. I don't know if the Truck Series is back that week, but I know Cup is racing, and you'll have the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and you'll also have the Truck Series, and is F1 racing? Good question, Alex. I didn't look this up beforehand. They are not racing next week. So next week you'll have IMSA, you will have IMSA, MotoGP, NASCAR Cup Series, NASCAR O'Reilly Series, NASCAR Truck Series, and I don't think WEC is racing for a while because they canceled the Qatar race. So I'm just going to check real quick. Give me uno minuto. Calendar. No, they're racing April 19th. That's pretty much over a month away. So they are not racing for a while. Let's end this off with our driver spotlight. Oh, wait. Isn't IndyCar also racing tomorrow because it's an IndyCar triple header? Or, sorry, not tomorrow. This weekend. Yeah, they're racing at Arlington. So
Yeah, they're at
IndyCar,
Arlington.
MotoGP, IMSA, all three tiers of NASCAR, and I forget if ARC is racing. I didn't check that either. We're not going to look it up. But IndyCar driver spotlight. There's only one driver for this, and I'll mention some other drivers as well. But let's be honest. Christian Rasmussen was elite all weekend until Will Power decided to chuck him. No, I'm just kidding. No, it really wasn't Will Power's fault. He had the line. Rasmussen was not side by side and contact happened, but Rasmussen led the second most laps. He led 69 laps, almost all of them towards the end of the race. He had elite speed. He made the most passes throughout the race. He just looked so good. But he ended up finishing in 14th, which sucks because he had a really good race. Other driver spotlights, Dave Malukas led 73 laps. Drove really well. Finished third. Newgarden, Penske guy, only led 8 laps, but those 8 laps led were all at the end, and they were all really good. And Marcus Armstrong, again, top 5. Just looked incredible pretty much all day. Was in the top 5 almost all day, and just looked really good. Also, I'll give a shout out to Mick Schumacher, who started 4th on the grid, which is nuts. Not because he's a bad driver, but because he hasn't raced oval racing his entire career. So, pretty sick. And then Grosjean didn't start the race, and Palou crashed out after 21 laps, and then Louis Foster crashed out after 140. Funsies, that's your IndyCar spotlight. Jack, do you have anyone to highlight?
From IndyCar, not necessarily. I think it would have been Rasmussen,
right.
who's just a freaking daredevil.
He's so, dude, him on the outside is nuts. Him on the outside is just so beautiful. Oh, he's so good at driving. Anyway, that is it. That's all we got. So I will ask Jack again, like I do every episode. What are your final thoughts?
Got F1 Academy to look forward to this week.
Ooh, okay.
Those are my final thoughts. Although, to go with that, you want to know something a little scary?
How early is it? Because last time I checked, F1 Academy is always like 2 a.m, and I'm not fucking staying up for that. I do record it, but I'm not staying up for that.
Well, this week in China anyway is like bizarre. So qualifying for F1 Academy is 2 a.m. Friday,
Yeah,
so like Thursday night. The race is 1:45 a.m. Saturday morning. So like
Do
Friday
we get
night, Saturday
recaps
morning.
on F1 TV? Is that a thing? Or is it just F1?
Yeah. F1 TV
We do?
has Academy content, yeah.
All right, I shall be watching on F1 TV the day after. I'm not waking up.
That's what I do for a lot of F1 Academy anyway.
Yeah.
You
I
want to know
normally
something
just
a little
tape it.
terrifying?
Sure.
There are drivers in the field that were born in 2009 and even 2010.
In F1 Academy?
Yes.
Oh, God, I'm going to get old. Oh, my God. Dude, you know what I found out the other day?
What?
Kids born in, like, 2012 are now starting high school. Like,
Yeah.
They're now in high school. Like, they are almost done with their freshman year. That is gross. Oh, my elbow. That is gross.
Oh,
God,
no,
dude,
and now your old frail bones are popping up. I can't believe this.
Dude, I don't know what's happened. I got so much pain, like, right here in my elbow right now.
You're aging in front of our very eyes.
I'm, I'm just, like, deteriorating.
Yeah.
But, like, what the heck? I was born in 2003. All right, I had a great childhood. For the most part, it was.
I was pulling out
Outside
the
of
back in my day.
outside of other issues. I grew up in a perfect time where it was right before social media and like phones became a major thing. And then as I was growing up, phones became a major thing and we had all the access. I don't like it. I'm getting old. I'm 22. I am turning 23. I do not like this. I don't
Well,
appreciate it. Stop growing up. How about that? Don't grow up. Because
Oh.
I can't be called old. All right, I've been called old multiple times since I got to campus.
Well, I call you old all the time.
Yeah, but you're 6 days younger than me.
Yeah,
So
which makes all the difference.
totally. But like, I'm getting called old by people who I am like 3 years older than, and I do not like it. And I'm gonna have to be on campus again next semester, so I'm gonna be 23, and this is just not. I hate it. I hate it. I don't like growing up. I don't. I don't want to adult. I don't want. No. Because listen, I'm still in college doing my thing, whatever. At 22, there are race car drivers who are like 4 years younger than me, and it's not okay. What the heck? Like Kimmy is like 18. Disgusting. Lindblad 18, also disgusting.
Frank
So-
Cruz, 17.
Oh God, yeah, you're right.
Sorry.
That's gross. It's not gross in a bad way. It's just, why am I so old? Anyway, you know why I like Lewis Hamilton so much? Because he's older than me.
Final thoughts again. Bam is right now at 79 points with a minute 40 left. The record, of course, is 100. Second place is 81 by Kobe. He is chasing that.
Oh, I think he gets it.
We'll find out.
Anyway, we are back. Bam Adebayo just broke the modern day record set by Kobe Bryant. He has 83 points. Congratulations to Bam Adebayo. This is not motorsports, but it is fun. So, Jack, any other final thoughts?
Nope.
No. All right. Well, I'm going to say my final thoughts, and that is